Hello and welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp. I'm your host, Andrew Moses. I'm joined today by Rhonda Vetere, the one and only Rhonda Vetere, the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Herbalife Nutrition, the author of one of my favorite books, Grit and Grind. Rhonda's also, as you know, Rhonda, your medals are blinding me over there. You're an Ironman triathlete. You've competed in over 70 marathons, half marathons, and triathlons. And you're one of the top 50 most powerful women in technology, honored in both 2019, 2020, and I bet you every year the next couple of decades. But thank you for joining Everybody Pulls the Tarp.
I love it, Andrew. Thanks for having me. This is great. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you, Rhonda, and you and I have been talking about doing this for a while now, so I'm glad we are getting to do it. Where I want to start, like I said, I'm staring at your medals, all your triathlon and Ironman medals. I want to start with your experiences as a very, very competitive and elite endurance athlete. What has drawn you to endurance sports?
It's a good question. And these medals are a mental model every day as you're working on in this virtual world. What drew me to endurance sports is the mentality. Yes, competitive, but a team environment. And I started off swimming, Andrew. I'm a swimmer at heart, but work got in the way along the way and just traveling so much. And I got back into sports doing Ironman 70.3s because, as I've noticed, Andrew, the more that I was working and on the road, which we're not on the road now, I needed an outlet, a healthy outlet, and I turned to sports and to keep my mental model framework, to keep everything sharp. I turned to sports and have continued it, and I'm proud of it because it's a different community as well. And as you work, you need endurance. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. As an Ironman 70.3, we say life's a transition. Ironman's a triathlete. Those are transition points and races. And I'm all about a cadence, Andrew. A lot drew me to triathlons, and I'm proud of it. And I manage like that every day, pivoting.
So you sure do. And so you talk about life, life is a marathon, and business and performance in any aspect of life requires endurance. How have the experiences, both past and present, as an elite competitive endurance athlete influenced you in other aspects of your life outside of sport?
I would say in the business environment, just knowing, the team camaraderie, wanting to be on a team, knowing that you want to be a part of the best. It's a team. It's not about just an individual. Everything is about the team. I work for the team spirit is there. Bringing it to the workplace is very important. Even though, an athlete, yes, we can have endurance. It could let's keep on meeting, Andrew, keep on meeting, but you have to take breaks. The mindset that you have as someone who wants to keep going and want to improve, you look at yourself, you self-reflect for the team. It's all about analogies in sports, but bringing it to the workplace, which is a very important aspect of leadership.
So we're going to talk a lot about leadership the next little bit. And one of the important things in leadership in any aspect is discipline. And I would imagine, I've never trained for an Ironman or a triathlon, but I'm sure it requires a lot of discipline. I see, your posts on Instagram, you're training all the time, early in the morning, weekends, weekdays, it doesn't matter. You have to, when you're traveling, pre-pandemic, you have to have your training regimen. It requires a lot of discipline. Does that discipline seep over into your professional senses, into your professional world as well? Like when you started the endurance training, did you have the discipline, or do you have to build the discipline?
I had the discipline in scheduling always. I was always an OCD scheduler in the workplace, back to back, even putting in 15-minute transition time to walk down the hallway. I think it's just the way scheduling time, because time's currency. It's the most important thing we have. But as now in this pandemic, even more, if you're 30 seconds late on a Zoom call, Andrew, we've adapted the way we all schedule things. Do you have overage? Can you have a wellness break? Everything is scheduled. I've always been like that my whole life. And I used to get made fun of. Why do you schedule everything a year in advance to have a get together? But I schedule out races purposely a year in advance to train and make sure everything as much as you can back then. Now it's hour by hour, but it bleeds into the workplace because it's all about discipline. And if you show up late, that's just disrespectful, and it bleeds over. Discipline is key. My mom brought me up like that, to be respectful.
Be respectful. You talk a lot in the book about time management and working, hard. You surely do, but also working smart, being
Yes.
respectful of people's time and schedules, as you just described there. You talk about a concept in the book called time leaks, and how you you need to avoid the leakage of time. Is that what you're talking about there? Having everything so intentionally scheduled that things can't leak.
Yeah, I talk about time leaks because sometimes what I think when you show up anywhere in life or in business and as an athlete, you're not going to show up to a race unprepared. You're going to put the time into it ahead of time. Otherwise, one, you'll die or hurt yourself. But the time leaks are scheduled so that you prepare yourself for the event, just like in business. You have to prepare yourself on a journey and not just get sidetracked. The time leaks, the people that suck the energy out of you, the ones that drain you, the ones that aren't positive and just not respectful of time, Andrew. It's just time is a currency, and I think people are realizing it more now during the pandemic. Quite frankly, I really do.
Yeah, it feels, I've heard a lot of people say, very, very busy people say, I either feel like I have more time now than I ever did,
Mhm.
or I have less time, right? And it's about how you use the time. And
It's all about scheduling it. Managing it is so you have to manage your time. People just go around that don't have a schedule or a goal. You're not going to accomplish anything. You're not.
so this show, you and I have talked about it, Rhonda, is called Everybody Pulls the Tarp. It's based on a philosophy that I have, that great teams and great organizations are powered by individuals who contribute in unexpected ways. They contribute outside the boundaries of their job description. They never say that's not my job. They do what's best in the moment for the team, the department, the organization. Talk about some of your experiences. I know you're someone, we've just talked about it, who's got this great attention to detail, does the little things that make a big impact. What are some of your tarp pulling moments, maybe that people don't see, the little things that you do that make a big difference?
Gosh, running cables for technology, pulling up the tarp, getting in with the team. Love to get into details, and I'm a technology gearhead. You probably wouldn't know that. I love the data aspect of it and getting in there to solve a problem with the team. People probably would say, "Oh my gosh, she just does races or like shoes." That's not the case. I do little things for the team today, to have fun and give them a break. We had a talent show for, over 90 countries that, just take a break on a wellness and people come together. People don't see that. You have to keep everyone focused and have fun along the way. And I think it's very, very important I work for the team. I believe in that. I show this every day. And that's the mantra that we have I love your saying, the tarp saying, Andrew, because that's life. It's not about one individual, it's about a team. And the sooner people get on with that mentality, the more success they'll have in giving back as well, which is key.
You said something earlier, you just said it again, you referenced to it. The leader works for the team as
Yes.
opposed to the team working for the leader. Talk about that for a minute. I know it's something you spend a lot of time talking about in your book.
Hmm. Yeah, and grit and grind, I talk about it a lot because I'm all about servant leadership. I love to give back in the workplace as well. I don't ever want folks to feel on the team, oh, here's an email from this person. I want to be known for as an individual, not for the position. And I really believe in authenticity and being genuine and helping people along their career. And I work for them. I'll be the first to say something that might be controversial, but in a nice way. I'm not going to be cussing or anything like that, Andrew, but I'll bring something up to deal with the friction and conflict where they would want the voice, the team's voice heard in a forum, and bring people along the journey in a way, not hierarchical. This is all about everyone's equal. We manage differently. I know that people are going to be listening going, really? Are you serious? But yes, it's all about working for the team and removing roadblocks.
You've held some enormous positions throughout your career. You've been a global executive at Estee Lauder, AIG, HP Enterprises, Barclays. and now obviously Herbalife Nutrition, a massive, massive company. You've had, enormous teams of thousands and thousands reporting to you. I know trust is something that you're really focused on, and you mentioned it earlier. How do you go about building trust?
Well, trust is earned. It's not just overnight. Here, I trust you. It's the follow up. It's the action. It's having those confidential conversations. It's not being leaking information out. It's all about leading by example. Someone brings something to your attention, you follow through on it. You make sure you're focused on it. I'm all about trust. If I don't trust someone, I don't want to be working with them. And I really believe in investing in people and showing that trust, personally and professionally. Anyone in my life, and you see the pictures behind me, I trust my friends. They're a big part of my life too, just like my my family, obviously. But trust in the workplace, Andrew, is something that takes time. It takes propping people up along the way so they know you have their back, in moments of risk averse moments, and leading through chaos together builds a lot of trust and bonds. So I believe in that personally and professionally. And trust is something, I bet you if I were to ask you, Andrew, who's in your bunker that you would call at 2 a.m. right now? We talk about that in the book. Do you have it? Do you know their cell phone numbers, not memorized, not on your iPhone, but know them, not on this digital addiction device, but do you know their phone numbers? Most people don't even know the phone numbers anymore. Who do you trust? Who are you going to call at 2 a.m.? And I'm all about that circle. That's your nucleus. That's outside of work that you trust as well. It's in and out.
Well, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier, right? It all works together, right? The discipline that you have in your sporting life, correlates to the discipline that you have in your professional life and your personal life, and the trust that you build professionally. It's really interesting how it all works together, isn't it? I mean, it's really fascinating.
It's like a three-legged stool, and the sooner people learn, like, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to spend their time? Who do I trust? And a lot of people have a problem saying no, Andrew, to things because they think they have to do everything. Coming back to time management and time leaks and trust. But I would also give, every time you say no, you're saying yes to something else. And I think it's really important to understand that in life. I wish I knew that early on in life. When you say no, you're saying yes to something else. And it's okay. It's okay to say, no, I can't show up here. I can't be here. I have to have this time to think. I'm in another meeting, or, those are pivotal moments.
Yeah, I mean, you held up the phone. You mentioned the digital addiction that we all have. We're all like so focused on consuming something at all times, right? We're all focused on if I'm not in that meeting, am I missing something? It's really interesting what you said. I mean, saying no is actually saying yes to something else, and
Yes.
that's remarkable.
Yeah, it's important, and it might be, okay, Andrew, you're going to be with your family, or and then you choose to focus in that moment, and you're present. I'm all about being present in the moment and not on this device, which might sound weird because I'm in technology my whole life, right? But we have to humanize it. I'm all about humanizing things as well. It's very important.
So no matter how much technology we have at our fingertips, and we're living technology right now every day. I mean, it's the biggest enabling factor of everything that's going on the last 8-9 months. But as a technology executive, I want to make sure I get this right. You believe in the human side and the
Oh,
human touch. Yeah.
I am a big proponent of this human touch aspect. So how do we make this screen right now three-dimensional? And how can we make a human relatable instead of just two-dimensional, two-way conversation, and be a human experience? But Andrew, oh my gosh, if anyone gets anything out of this talk, is don't lose the human aspect. We're all consumed with technology. I believe in technology. I love technology. Don't get me wrong. But the relationships, the trust, who you spend your time with are very important. And you're relying on these relationships during COVID, during this pandemic, whether people realize it or not, or you gain new relationships. You see who's along the way and who will take it like an elite athlete to the end. And notice who's reaching out. Who's consistent, Andrew, since the pandemic? It's like a triathlon, the cadence. Who's really consistent during the pandemic? Who pops up out of nowhere? but who's that common denominator, and are they preparing themselves, and what do they have in their fire in their belly? It's interesting to watch.
It is interesting to watch, and I've got so many questions because, you have so many folks that work on your team or you work for, depending on how, and you look at it, right? The leader works for the team.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you have time to have those conversations, to make sure that each of the folks that you work with and that you lead know that you care about them as the professional and as them as the person?
Well, I scheduled team Zooms. We're all on screen. We just got off a call with hundreds and hundreds of people around all the world. And everyone, that's the beauty of technology. You can enable it and see their screen. I just scheduled skip levels, Andrew. So I'm not hierarchical. I'll just start, and they're all scheduled out, skip levels across the globe, and make sure, even if it's 15 minutes, one-on-one conversation like we're having. Doesn't have to be a direct report. It's all the way down the organization. Again, I work for the team. I want to make sure I know the pulse. So when I'm making business decisions, I know what it's like everywhere in the team, not just one view.
It's interesting. So you want to have, you feel like that communication is it gives you the glimpse into, gives you the insight that you need while you're making business decisions.
Absolutely. The pulse of everything is about humanity, leadership, and knowing what's going on, not just looking at a key metric, but I want to know the human side behind it, what's on people's minds.
You've talked about, like, you've used the word cadence a few times, and that's a word that, has become kind of a business buzzword, but it's also an endurance, training to word. Talk about, what that, the concept of cadence means to you.
Cadence means think of it a wheel, just keep on going, and like a hamster on a wheel. Some of us feel like that on Zoom, but just keep going and pace it out and realize you could go forever. So is it sustainable? What's the cadence? Working that in, the pace of play is very important. You can't go full throttle all the time, even though we want to, but you have to tone it back, just like this Whoop band helps with that. But it's important to get into a rhythm. Know your body rhythm, know your mental rhythm, know the team rhythm, know your athlete rhythm, endurance, and know your heartbeat rhythm. I mean, it all fits together, Andrew, all aspects.
See, I'm, as you know, I mean, you and I have talked about this. I always want to go, right? And I usually just stop and take a breather when, I've kind of hit a wall, right? When the body, it's almost like, the body is telling you have to stop. How do you teach yourself, besides some of the enabling technologies you just, held up the Whoop band and everything? Mm-hmm. How do you, before technology, go about kind of learning what your body needs in terms of rest, recovery, not just in sport, because that, that may be a little easier for folks to understand, but in business, you've traveled, pre-pandemic, you're traveling the world all the time, Rhonda.
Yes.
You're working. I know you've been on calls 20 hours in a row. How do you know when to, when you're going to need to take a step back, and how do you build that in? Is it scheduling? What is it?
It's scheduling. I would also say after the flight, I have a routine on the plane, which is very simple. I don't eat on the plane 14 hours. I'll drink only water on the plane. I sleep. I do not bring out my device. I try to rest my eyes. But when I land, Andrew, if it's 4 a.m, I'm in the gym. I know what works for me over the years now traveling. And that's what works. You need to find what works for you. So I land with the team. The team all knows we all go to the gym. This is before being in a wellness. We did this early on financial services. We would land, go for a gym, and you sweat it out, talk about cadence. We all have a rhythm, and we know, and then we'll go to a meeting, and then we'll come back and sleep. And then the first night, everyone, no socializing. We usually just rest. So I had to learn that over time, quite frankly. You have to know what works for you and really understand what you need to operate. Some days we go on no sleep. That's not healthy, right? You just suck it up and you do it. Right. But you're going to feel like that. If someone were to say, here's the magic algorithm, that's not real life. But don't get to a point where you just like totally burn out. Sleep when you can. Look at your schedule. I look at it very far in advance. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to get any sleep for 2 weeks here. I know I'm going to go. I know I'm going to go full throttle, but you got to get some sort of sanity. It is chaotic, Andrew, but you got to manage it.
I mean, you said manage it. We keep going back to the scheduling, and yeah, I know you talk about it a lot in the book. We talked about that earlier, but the scheduling and the systematic nature of the way you do things and the way people who are kind of uber productive do things, it's remarkable. I mean, so many people, I'm guilty of it. I'm a productive person, but I'm guilty of it. Sometimes, I'm getting ready for bed and I'm like, I don't even know what my first meeting is tomorrow.
Really?
I really admire, I really admire people like you, Rhonda, who can take that macro view and you're looking it out 2-3 weeks. But more often than not, what I'm trying to do is be a couple days ahead. You're a few weeks ahead. It's really. Have you always been like this?
Um, I think in financial services, with the traders and, you get stuff thrown at you, your schedule will go off too. You can't, I
Right.
mean, you have to plan for chaos as well. Um, yes, I'd like things scheduled. I really do. I think growing up, always, my mom had a schedule, the school had a schedule, and I just kept that going on. I knew I had to work and go to school full time, came from nothing and worked my way up. And I've just always worked like this. I don't know anything differently, Andrew, to quite frankly. And people would say, Rhonda, your schedule's like Fort Knox. I got that the other day. I'm like, really? I'm sorry, but we plan months in advance out. We plan everything, different time zones, and you have to just work what works for you.
So you talked a little bit about your upbringing there, and I want to talk about. We've been talking a lot about work ethic and productivity and leadership, and um, I'm always curious. When I talk to successful people, what do you think? Is great work ethic something that you're born with, or something that you develop over time?
I think you're you develop it more over time, if you have the right environment, what you grow up with. And you have someone to help you along the way. You just don't pop out and go, "Oh, I'm going to be a leader." It's over time. I really do. It's over time.
Are there were there people were there supervisors or teammates or people as you were rising through the ranks that you just felt like, as you think back, maybe you didn't realize it at the time, but as you think back, made an impact and you said, I want to either be more like that individual or I want to be less like that individual? Are there folks like that stand out?
Oh yeah, I learned what not to do and who to appreciate. We take it for all the moves were very pivotal on all the companies I've worked at and for reasons. So I wanted to be a well-rounded person, and I learned that from early on in my 20s when I didn't realize at the time, one of my mentors, it still is, kept moving me to divisions, Andrew. And I was like, why do you keep moving me after 2 years? This is so frustrating, getting things the way they need to be. It's like, well, you're a great fixer. Go in and fix it. You like people, and I don't know what you're doing for high performance cultures, but do it. And I learned that early on in the career, and didn't realize it at the time. But 10 years later, I was like talking to him. I was like, is that why you did that? And I had my aha moment. And we all have people we look up to, but you also have to take advantage of it and say, will you be my mentor, and formalize. I talk a lot about that. A lot of people don't do that, Andrew. They don't have a mentor. They don't actually say, will you be my mentor, and formalize it to someone that you looked up to your question. I've formalized them and I have them through life, and we have this special bond. And I think people need to do that more in life.
So talk about that a little bit. Let's go into that a little bit more. So sometimes these mentor mentee relationships just develop naturally. They're
Yes.
organic, but you're a believer in the fact that you need to really formalize it. What does that
Oh,
what does that mean? What does that mean?
it says, hey, Andrew, will you be my mentor? And when you ask someone that formally and they say yes or no, it's very powerful. And they say, what do you mean by that? And I want to develop this skill, and this skill. And can we work on that? Yes, we're going to continue the relationship, but have specific things you want to work on. And you can't take on being a mentor to every person around the world all the time. You have to be very, when you ask someone, it's very serious, depending upon where you want to go. I would say, Andrew, you probably look up to so many people, and have you formalized it? That would be my challenge back to you. Have you formalized it? Knowing you probably have, but maybe it's someone out there that has been helping you, but you haven't officially formalized it.
It's interesting. You hear of so many companies these days, right? They try and implement these formal mentor programs. Everybody by January 15th, you have to find a mentor. If you're of this level, you have to find a mentee. I'm a believer that it has to be organic and it has to be natural. But I never thought of what you just said. I never thought about the act. You have to make the ask. To transfer that, to make, give the weight of that responsibility and see if that person's willing to accept it, and then invest in growing those areas that you're focused on. It's really
You
interesting.
have to invest in, yes, in the workplace, we're going to pair folks up. Absolutely. We'll always have that. But on your outside of work, I'm very focused. And I do that with the teams. We do that internally, pair them up. It's great. I believe in that. But as an individual outside of the workplace, who's your mentor outside of work? Because you'll have the CEO, you'll have who you look up to in the workplace. But outside of work, it's very important to have, I believe in, 2 to 3 mentors. I'm a full believer in mentorship, and I'm committed myself to this world to look at who's your mentor and who you're making better and why. And I really believe in who I'm mentoring. And I am so excited to be with them and honored when someone asks as well. And who I have as mentors, I've learned from them.
Well, Rhonda, we have a few more minutes together here. I know you're very, very busy. I want to talk more
You're
about the
very
book. I'm going to flash it up again here. Grit and Grind. I enjoy this one. I've got a lot of notes in it, Rhonda, and things that I come back to periodically. Before I ask you some other questions about the book and about some of your career highlights here, what inspired you to write the book?
It's a great question. I did a dummies book before on technology. And that one, I didn't tell anyone I was writing the book, Andrew. No one.
Nobody.
It just, everyone got the invite. It was very hard. Inspired me because over the years, a lot of men have said to me, will you please write a book? You need to write this book, and women too. But it was really folks I looked up to, and I said, why do I want to write a book? Seriously. And they're like, no, people can learn from it. And I thought about it, and I said on planes, I pondered it for a while. I said, all right, if I'm going to do it, it's going to be a labor of love. I want it to be relevant. I want it to be actionable. I want it to be transparent and really a lesson in life on all the things I've learned in life are in that book. And I'm hoping it makes a difference in education, in leadership, at elementary schools. It's not for a specific audience. It's about life in general. And it inspired me.
Well, that's what I love about it. And again, I mean, I love the title, Grit and Grind: 10 Principles for Living an Extraordinary Life. It's not about an extraordinary career or an extraordinary runner. It's an extraordinary life. And I think as you go through these 10 principles, you really simplify it, right? And you make it relevant, like you said. And I think the lessons are timeless. One question I do have for you is the last 9-10 months have been unlike any we've ever seen. Everybody's facing adversity in different ways at different scale. Companies are facing adversity. People are facing adversity. You talk about having everything scheduled, right? You've got everything planned. You've got a game plan. You build the trust. You're leading. You're a servant leader. What about when adversity strikes? How do you adapt and adjust and power through? I know you do. So I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've all had to adjust during this pandemic. So take an extrovert that's used to being on planes around people and put them in their home that they've never been in a home as long as in their life, and everything stops. So that's what's happened to the majority of us. And for those that can adapt and embrace it, are doing well. Some folks aren't, and this is hard. If someone says this is easy, this is hard for us. We like to be together and social, but you know what? We have to lead through this pandemic, and it's been hard, and we've all had to adapt with something no one would have thought we would be going as long, the cadence, and we're going to keep going like this. So the sooner we embrace it and realize it, we can change our mental model and let's spread good during the time. Let's help each other out. Let's, reach out to people. And I think adapting is in adversity is everywhere. I mean, 9/11, Lehman crashing, every job I've had has been adversity. I I run into the problems. I don't run away from them. So all of my career moves, I've gone into specific areas because I like adversity. I like change, Andrew. I like it, but do I like being in my home? No. I want to be on a plane with people and the team and off a Zoom. Let's get real and have some human interaction and not, getting back to the human side. We're all craving it. We thrive it. And it's what makes us tick. In the meantime, we all have to adapt and make the most of it.
We sure do. Rhonda, before I let you go, one more question.
Anything.
Decades from now, when people say the name Rhonda Vetere, what do you want them to think?
I want them to think, that's a great question. I want them to think transparency, genuine. She helped me get to where I am. And when we were together and working, it was a highlight of their life and their career. And then I helped them grow and made a difference in their life, in the community.
Well, you sure are making a difference, Rhonda. Just to get, once again, I'm going to flash it up for all the viewers. For those listening, the book is Grit and Grind by Rhonda Vetere, 10 Principles for Living an Extraordinary Life. Rhonda, we've been talking about this for a while. I am so glad that we finally got it together and sat down for 30 minutes or so. Thank you so much for joining everybody. Pulls the tarp. Keep doing what you're doing. And by the next time we talk, I bet you there'll be another rack of medals there on your Ironman medal wall.
Well, as soon as the races open up. Thank you, Andrew, for having. This is so much fun. I could talk to you for hours.
Well, we'll do a part 2 one day, Rhonda.
I hope so. I hope so, Andrew. This is fun.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.